1 John chapter 4 verse 18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. Because fear involves torment. That he who fears has not been made perfect in love. Perfect love casts out fear. Because fear involves torment. Fear is tormenting. Fear is crippling. Fear is limiting. And this kind of fear is cancerous for any relationship. When such a fear comes into marriage, it ruins the marriage. Any kind of relationship, this fear comes, it brings with its torment. And perfect love casts out fear. And 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7. 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7. It says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." So here the Bible says fear is a spirit, and God has not given us a spirit of fear, but He has given us a spirit of love, power, and a sound mind. Romans chapter 8 verse 15, it says, "For you did not receive the spirit of bondage again to fear." So fear brings torment. Fear brings bondage. The spirit of bondage again to fear. But you receive the spirit of adoption, by whom we cry out, "Abba, Father." So what kind of fear did this perfect love cast out? It is the fear that Adam had when he sinned. The day he sinned, he started shuddering with fear. And it disconnected him from God. That's the fear that this perfect love casts out. Right? If you go and read 1 John chapter 4 verse 17, love has been perfected among us in this, that we may have boldness in the day of judgment, because as He is, so are we in this world. Right? Love has been perfected among us in this, that we may have boldness in the day of judgment. So this love that is being perfected, it casts out the fear of judgment. It casts out the fear of punishment. It casts out every wrong fear in your life. But perfect love brings something else also in your life. You know, it casts out a particular kind of fear. It brings in something else. I want to talk about that. Come with me to Isaiah chapter 11 verse 1, 2 and 3. Isaiah chapter 11 verse 1, 2 and 3. "There shall come forth a rod from the stem of Jesse." Who is Jesse? David's father. So who is a rod from the stem of Jesse? Jesus, right? So the rod from the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of the roots, right? "The Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord. His delight is in the fear of the Lord." So among the sevenfold Spirit of God that rested upon Jesus, one of the spirits that rested upon him is called the Spirit of the fear of the Lord. So perfect love casts out tormenting fear, but perfect love brings in the fear of the Lord upon your life. The perfect love doesn't cast out the fear of the Lord out of your life. So when you believe perfect love casts out the fear of the Lord upon your life, you are gravely mistaken and you position yourself for failure. Jesus, it says, his delight is in the fear of the Lord. So this fear of the Lord is not that fear that would disconnect you from relationship. This fear of the Lord draws you closer to the relationship. It is the fear of the Lord that Jesus had. Was Jesus, shivering, looking at the Father, not knowing from which side he will strike him with a lightning? No, that's not the fear that Jesus had. But Jesus had a fear of the Lord. And that's the secret of his life. And throughout the Bible talks so much about the fear of the Lord. Unfortunately, growing up in religious circle, the fear of the Lord has been tainted with that tormenting fear. So whenever somebody speaks about the fear of the Lord, we always get connected to that fear that Adam felt, when he was disconnected from the Father. But Jesus came to show perfect love, to cast out such a fear. But he did not come to cast out the fear of the Lord. He came in to bring you into the fear of the Lord. You are supposed to have the fear of the Lord. Read Proverbs chapter 9, verse 10 and 11. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. For by me your days will be multiplied, and years of life will be added to you. Can you believe that? The other fear will reduce your lifetime. The tormenting fear, when you have such fears in life, fear about future, fear about your health, fear about marriage, fear about all sorts of things, all those fear cripples you. It reduces your lifestyle. It brings in diseases. It shortens your lifespan. But the fear of the Lord, which is the beginning of wisdom, lengthens your days. It lengthens your years. Long life is in the fear of the Lord. Read Proverbs 3:7. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. You cannot fear the Lord and involve yourself in evil ways. When you fear the Lord, so many people start arguing. Is this wrong? What am I doing? Is this wrong? No, what's wrong in what I'm doing? What's wrong? Everybody does this. It's because the fear of the Lord is lacking in your life. You're confused. When the fear of the Lord has to be where it has to be, you won't be confused about decision making. You would know for sure what you have to do and what you are not supposed to do. You don't need to be confused when you have the fear of the Lord in your life. When you don't have the fear of the Lord, you get all curved, crooked. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. Verse 8, it will be health to your flesh and strength to your bones. What did we read in Proverbs 9? What does it have? It has long life. In Proverbs 3, what does it have? Health to all your flesh and strength to all your bones. So you have health and you have long life. Where? In the fear of the Lord. Few weeks ago, I preached that these things belong to wisdom, right? These things belong to wisdom. As a result, it has to belong to the fear of the Lord, because the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So you have the sevenfold Spirit of God, right? Spirit of wisdom and understanding, counsel and might, and the Spirit of knowledge, and the Spirit of the fear of the Lord. So the fear of the Lord is the lowest rung in the ladder. That's where you start climbing. This fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And as you grow in the fear of the Lord, you grow in wisdom. And you go in counsel, you grow in might. Every other aspect of spirit starts manifesting in your life when you have a grip of the spirit of the fear of the Lord. And not only that, here we find, verse 8 says it will be health to your flesh and strength to your bones. Verse 9 says, honor the Lord with your possessions and with the first fruit of your increase. So your barns will be filled with plenty and your vats will overflow with new wine. So it's in the same breath that he talks about giving. So giving is a matter of honor. And honor comes out of the fear of the Lord. When you have the fear of the Lord, you honor God with the first fruits. I still remember when my mom and dad used to work, and day one comes of the month, they get their salary and they take whatever portion they have decided to give. They take that portion, they go near the bureau and pray. Both of them pray and put that thing aside. And even though they might have done it religiously, what it says is, it talks about your heart. You're saying, God, I want to acknowledge that my salary doesn't run my month. My salary doesn't run my month. So why do we take it first and give? It's a matter of acknowledging that God is the source. But we no longer acknowledge Him that way. Right? Because the whole thing goes in ECS. Right? A standing instruction is given, which is good. I'm not saying it's bad. But what I'm saying is, when it becomes a part of a routine that you do it without even you really, doing it from your heart. So one of the reasons why people come and, there is something called wave offering, all these things. It's not for God. Come on. God is not going to take your offering that you put and pay His EB bill and make His, bulb glow in the heavens. He is not in need of your money. He is not in need of your time. He is not in need of your energy. But when you give, you're acknowledging. And that would happen so naturally with joy when you have the fear of the Lord in your life. So when you don't have the fear of the Lord in your life, this whole thing becomes kind of a thing. Let's do Psalms 111 verse 10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all those who do His commandments. His praise endures forever. Let's do Psalms 25 verse 12 to 14. Who is the man that fears the Lord? Him shall He teach in the way He chooses. He himself shall dwell in prosperity. So what's the secret of prosperity? The fear of the Lord. When you fear the Lord, He teaches you the way. Look at somebody and say, He teaches you the way. He himself shall dwell in prosperity, and his descendants shall inherit the earth. The Psalms also talks about the wicked prospering. The wicked is prospering. The wicked is prospering. And we also see that as a reality today. There are many wicked who prosper like that. But I have never seen a wicked descendants inherit and enjoy. It doesn't happen. Because the descendants inheriting is a blessing that belongs to those who fear Him. When you fear the Lord, you are doing good for generations. Amen. Look at somebody and say, you fearing God, it does good for generations. Yeah, it does. It does. My mom's mom is such a God-fearing lady. In her own way. Very simple. Simple-hearted. Simple faith. Genuinely serve the Lord. But I could see God prospering the generations. God prospering the generations. Look at somebody and say, you shall dwell in prosperity when you fear the Lord. Huge prosperity is coming our way. You don't have any idea about the prosperity that is going to be released in this coming season. Unless you have the fear of the Lord, you are not going to dwell in it. The fear of the Lord has to be in its place. See, when the fear of the Lord is in its place, you would, as I told you, decision making will be very easy when you have a lot of money. Otherwise, you'll be like, how to avoid tax? You get all like that. See, the problem with us is we are used to not having money. So when money comes, we still want to be that way. You have truly, truly not understood prosperity until you learn to pay taxes happily. You still haven't got prosperity right in your mind. I'm not against tax planning, but I'm saying your heart, right? Your heart. You're like, so you try to keep things in cash, you try to not bring things into account, do all those things. Why are we even thinking about all those such things? It's because we are confused. It's because the fear of the Lord is not in place. When the fear of the Lord is in place, He'll give you wisdom what to do. I was listening to Andrew Mack after donkey years, yesterday. And he's talking about the fear of the Lord, in which he was talking about they got this new rule for these trusts and stuff like that you're not supposed to give gifts, huge amounts to a person. Okay? So he felt in his spirit that he should bless somebody. So he released that money to that person. And his accountant got all jittery and said, hey, you're not supposed to do that, blah, 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 blah. He said, okay, what's the right way to do it? He said, you have to take and pay tax 45% for it. So he took the money, he paid extra 45% tax and gave this gift to that guy. And he said, I don't care. If I have to pay tax, I pay tax. But I do what the Lord has asked me to do. And it's no brainer for him because the fear of the Lord is in place. Oh, I'm giving an offering so God will understand. That's not how the whole thing works. The fear of the Lord. The fear of the Lord. Say, you shall dwell in prosperity. You have to dwell there, not visit there. That's what the fear of the Lord does. The fear of the Lord helps you to dwell there, be there. And it says, his descendants shall inherit the earth. Look at somebody and say, next verse will be better. Okay, verse 14. Yeah? Come on. The secret of the Lord is with those who fear him. There are some stuff that he would tell only those people who fear him. Look at somebody and say, God has got his own secrets. Secret is what it means. That means it's not for everyone. The secret of the Lord is with those who fear him. It's amazing. Listen to me carefully. So here is Moses, born and picked up by Pharaoh's daughter. Pharaoh's daughter picks him up when he was a little baby from river Nile and takes him to the palace and brings him up in the palace. I mean, he is a grandson of Pharaoh. Not even son, grandson. That means no conditions. Okay? You know, grandson doesn't have conditions, right? Yeah. I mean, whenever they get into trouble, they appeal to the grandfather and the grandmother. Okay? And especially when you have them opposite door, it becomes easy for them. They just walk out and say, we are going to complain. And they get their cute little faces and go and stand in front of the door and knock. And when they open the door, they come out charging to us. What did you do? Right? So this guy was Pharaoh's grandson. I mean, look at the comfort. Look at how much he would have been pampered and how he would have been, wasted upon and all these things. He grew up like that. On the other hand, Israelites were broke. They were slaves for 400 years. Backs broken, ripped apart, bleeding, no food, no straw to make the bricks. Hell of life. This guy was living heaven on earth. Both of them leave Egypt. Both of them leave Egypt. And they come out. And these jokers, listen to me carefully, everyone. These jokers, for every now and then, keep saying, if only we go back to Egypt. How we wish that we go back to Egypt. It was much, much better in Egypt. But do you know, Moses, not even once said, Egypt was much better than the wilderness. If you somehow are transported by time travel and you're standing there and you're seeing these Israelites having tasted the goodness of the Lord so much, oh my goodness, seen all crazy miracles, but complaining every single day. What did the Lord do? Why did you bring us out of Egypt? We were doing much better than Egypt. What would he tell them? What would he tell them? Are you guys? Is something wrong with you guys? You know what's the problem? They had the wrong fear of the Lord. Since they had the wrong fear of the Lord, they were not drawing closer to God, and God was not sharing the secrets with them. God was just sharing the acts with them. But Moses, on the other hand, had the fear of the Lord, and he was drawing closer to the Lord. So the Lord showed the secret to him, the ways. The Bible says God showed the ways to Moses, and God showed the acts to Israelites. That's why the Bible calls it as signs and wonders. That's what it is. Sign. I want to go to Bangalore. So I go on the road, I hit the road, and I see this sign. It says Bangalore. How many kilometers? 300 kilometers. It shows an arrow. Just imagine me stopping the car and going to the sign and standing at the sign. After 2 minutes, what will happen? Same thing. I'll start getting bored after some time. Sign is pointing to a greater reality. So for Moses, for all those miracles and everything is a sign. And it pointed to the greater reality, which is the presence. And he went after that because he had the fear of the Lord. Since he had the fear of the Lord, he entered into the cloud. Since he had the right kind of fear, he entered into the cloud. So he was not really holding on to the signs. So when you're holding on to miracles and signs and wonders in your life, you start complaining after some time. You start. Can you imagine Israelites were complaining about supernatural food? They were complaining about food that angels ate. Oh. Something is wrong. I bet you, I give you a piece of paper right now and I ask you to write down what are the things that you're currently complaining about. Do you know those are the things that you're supposed to be thankful for? It's because you don't have the fear of the Lord. When you don't have the fear of the Lord, you become blinded. You become blinded, you become cheap. You start saying stuff, you will be blabbering something. It'll be like, oh my goodness, I love Egypt. I love the garlic over there. I love the onions over there. For heaven's sake, they are eating angels' food. Door delivered. Every day, fresh. No fridge in the wilderness. Thank God. You're not supposed to store anything. Every day, day in and day out for 40 years, God was faithful to provide them fresh stuff. Go hit the rock and water comes for 20 lakh people. Drink of the river. Crazy supernatural. But their hearts were hardened because there was no fear. Come with me to 1 Corinthians 10, verse 1 onwards. Moreover, brethren, I do not want you to be unaware. Look at somebody and say, my brethren, my sisterin. Okay? I do not want you to be unaware that all our fathers were under the cloud, all passed through the sea, all were baptized into Moses in the cloud in the sea, all ate same spiritual food, all drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ. But with most of them, all, okay? But with most of them, God was not well pleased. It's one of the saddest verses in the Bible. God was not well pleased, for their bodies were scattered in the wilderness. Now, verse 6, listen to verse 6 very carefully. Now these things became our examples, to the intent that we should not lust after evil things, as they also lusted. And do not become idolaters, as were some of them. People sat down to eat, drink, and rose up to play. Play means not ringa roses. The next verse say what games they were playing. Nor let us commit sexual immorality, as some of them did, and in one day 23,000 fell. When you don't have fear of the Lord in your life, you mess around, you goof around. Don't do it. Don't do it. God brought everyone out of the Egypt with the intent to take them to the land flowing with milk and honey. But do you know, they insisted that they will die in the wilderness. And finally God had to let them their way. Verse 9, nor let us tempt Christ, as some of them tempted and were destroyed by serpents. Nor complain. Come on, read verse 10 everyone together. Nor complain, as some of them complained and were destroyed by the... So complaining is no small thing. Complaining opens door to all nonsense in your life. It doesn't stop there. It opens up to all kind of sorts of demonic stuff in your life. And it comes and it destroys, it eats. Serpents come and bite, and then you find out, oh, something is wrong. It's because the fear of the Lord was not in its place, and you were so blinded to the blessings of God in your life. See, when the fear of the Lord is in your place, you won't fear anything in your life. Anything in your life. Nothing can touch your family. Nothing can touch your marriage. Nothing. Even though it seems like things are going bad, when you fear the Lord, nothing can happen. Because God is true to His word. God is true to His word. You know, what is Psalms 128? You know, Psalms 128 has been read in every wedding. What does it say? No, that's 127. What is 128? Psalms 128. Blessed is everyone who fears the Lord, who walks in His ways. கர்த்தருக்கு பயந்து அவர் வழிகளில் நடக்கிறவன் பாக்கியவான். Blessed are those who fear the Lord and who walk in His ways. Go ahead. When you eat the labor of your hands, you shall be happy, and it shall be well with you. Yeah? Your wife shall be like a fruitful vine in the very heart of your house. Your children like olive plants all around your table. Behold, thus shall the man be blessed who fears the Lord. When you fear the Lord, if it doesn't happen, call God a liar, throw the Bible out of the window, and do your own thing. God is true to His word. When you fear God, no matter what happens in your family, He will make sure this thing happens. So when you fear the Lord, whenever something is happening, either, you shall eat the labor of your hands. It's talking about your business. So your business, your relationship, your kids, everything will be in its place when you fear the Lord. When you see something shaking, you need not really worry because you fear the Lord. You take it to the Lord and you are not really afraid about what's happening there. You don't start reacting in fear because you fear the Lord. Because when you fear the Lord, you don't fear anything in your life. When you don't fear the Lord, you fear everything. When the fear of the Lord is not in place, you would fear everything in your life. Everything would be a nightmare. Read Proverbs 16:6. In mercy and truth, atonement is provided for iniquity. And by the fear of the Lord, one departs from evil. See, what did we read the previous verse? What did we read in 16:6? The one who fears the Lord departs from evil. Okay? That is level 1. Okay? What is level 2? The fear of the Lord is to hate evil. Now, you're not just departing from it. It's not that you're wanting to do and you're like, no, I won't do it. You start hating what God hates. You start hating what God hates. Pride, arrogance, and evil way, and the perverse mouth I hate. Love is always defined by the stuff it hates. God's love for us is defined by His hatred towards the stuff that destroys us. He hates depression. He hates death. He hates sickness. He hates brokenness because He loves us. So love has to be expressed in hate, in other things. So we have to come to the place where our hearts are filled with the fear of the Lord, where we start hating the stuff that God hates. It's not like our hearts are like, I want to do, but I have to, depart from it because of the fear of the Lord. That's no holiness. Holiness is your heart is so drenched by the love of God that it is filled with the fear of the Lord, where you hate evil. You hate perverse mouth. You hate double tongue. There are some stuff that God hates. There are so many things that God hates. It comes in the book of Proverbs. If you read through it, you'll find it. Anything that destroys the family, He hates it. Because family is number one agenda. You better hate anything that destroys family. That's what the fear of the Lord does. Come with me to Job 28, verse 17 onwards. Neither gold nor crystal can equal it, nor can it be exchanged for the jewelry of fine gold. No mention shall be made of coral or quartz, for the price of wisdom is above rubies. The topaz of Ethiopia cannot equal it, nor can it be valued in pure gold. Verse 20. Read it out loud. From where then does wisdom come? From where is the place of understanding? Wisdom is above all these things. But where do you find this wisdom? Where do you find this understanding? It's about gold, it's about topaz, it's about everything that is precious in this world. But where do you find it? Where do you find it? In the last verse. And to man He said, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom, and to depart from evil is understanding. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So when you are there, it has gold, it has rubies, it has topaz, it has long life, it has health to bones, it has family blessing, it has got everything, right? It has got everything out there. All for the fear of the Lord. What is fear of the Lord? Fear of the Lord is not a tormenting fear that disconnects you from God, that makes you afraid of His punishment, because perfect love casts out fear, because God has not given us such a spirit of fear, again to bondage, leading to bondage, but He has given us a spirit of adoption, through whom we cry out, Abba, Father. But we have the Spirit of the Lord, which is the spirit of the fear of the Lord. And His delight is in the fear of the Lord. In such a fear of the Lord, you have all these blessings in life. Put Ephesians 5 verse 21. Come on, read it there. Submitting to one another. Say, submitting to one another in the fear of God. There are no verse distinctions in the Bible, right? Okay. Submitting to one another in the fear of God. Next verse. Wives, submit to your own husbands as unto the Lord, and husbands, love your wives. So wives submitting to the husband and husband loving your wife has to be done in a manner of submitting to one another in the fear of God. What's missing in your marriage? Fear of God. When there is fear of God, I was counseling a couple today. They were facing some problems. And I asked them this. When you were fighting, if Jesus was present physically in your bedroom and was sitting in the bed as I'm sitting right now, would you still fight the same way you're fighting? Would you still fight? How many of you would still fight? Jesus is sitting in the bed. How many of you would use the words that you're using right now? How many of you would use, the attitude that you're using right now if Jesus is physically present in your bedroom sitting on the bed? I know some people, gutsy people are here. For me, it would restrain me a bit, right? Forget about Jesus. If Jesu walks into your bedroom, just remove the S of it, okay? Why do we go till Jesus, right? There would be a difference. So if I'm going to be there and there is going to be a difference in the way you treat each other, how much more there is going to be a difference when Jesus is there? So what's the problem is we take Jesus out of our picture. We take his presence out of the picture and we say whatever we want to say and we do whatever we want to do as if he is not there. I'm not asking you to imagine if Jesus is present. He is. It's not an imagination. Look at somebody and say, he is. He is in your bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, everywhere. He is there. And if only if you're aware of the presence, what this text says is, husbands and wife, treat each other how you would treat them in the presence of God. That's called submitting to one another in the fear of God. You are like, whoa, I value his presence. I value who is here in the room. I want my attitude, my words, everything to be worthy of the person present in my room. That's called the fear of the Lord. That makes things very simple, right? You don't need to be confused how to react to your spouse when they mess up, because you are aware of the presence. This is what it's all about. It's very simple. When you fear the Lord, when you fear his presence, not that fear, I'm repeating it, right? This fear is delight. My delight is in the fear of the Lord. You're so happy that the fear of the Lord is in your heart. Ephesians 6:5 says, bondservants, be obedient to those who are your masters, according to the flesh, with fear and trembling, in sincerity of heart, as to Christ. Romans 13 talk about government, submitting to government in the fear of the Lord. So the fear of the Lord is the foundation of submission to any authority, be it family, be it church, be it government, be it your office. God says, hey, in the fear of the Lord, submit. Galatians chapter 5 verse 1 onwards in message. Christ has called you for a free life. So take your stand. Never again let anyone put a harness of slavery on you. Don't let anybody control you, because God has called you for a free life. You are like, where was this verse all while? Then nobody put anything on you. Okay, look at somebody and say, it's just verse 1. Okay, keep reading. Okay, yeah. I'm emphatic about this. The moment any one of you submit to circumcision or any other rule-keeping system, at the same moment, Christ's hard-won gift of freedom is squandered. Whenever you put yourself in a rule-keeping system, the whole freedom is lost. I repeat my warning. The person who accepts the way of circumcision trades all the advantages of the free life in Christ for the obligation of the slave life of the law. Are you guys clear so far? Right? Okay, good. Till that point, when you read, what's coming in your mind? Does that mean I can do? Huh? Did that come in your mind? When you read those 3 verses, what comes to your mind? Does that mean I can do whatever I want to do? Right? I suspect you would never intend this, but this is what happens. When you attempt to live by your own religious plans and projects, you are off from Christ and you fall out of grace. Meanwhile, we expectantly wait for a satisfying relationship with the Spirit. Come to a study. It is absolutely clear that God has called you to a free life. Just make sure that you don't use this freedom as an excuse to do whatever you want to do and destroy your. Look at somebody and say, doing whatever you want to do is not freedom. It's called destroying your freedom. Rather, use your freedom to serve one another in love. That's how freedom grows. So how freedom grows is your capacity to love somebody irrespective of their behavior. God is not holding you for a rule-keeping system. If you do this, I will love you. If you do this, I will hate you. That means he is under bondage. You can make him love and you can make him hate you. So God is free means he is free to love you irrespective of your behavior. That's what true freedom is. Freedom is your capacity to love, where other person's actions and attitudes and words doesn't define your capacity to love. That's what true freedom is. Because whenever other person's capacity defines your capacity to love, then you are their slave. Your peace will be at their disposal. Look at them and say, God has called you for a free life. Don't use this freedom to do whatever you want to do and destroy your freedom. But use this freedom to serve one another in love, because that's how freedom grows. That's how freedom grows. So for that to happen, you need to be in that place where perfect love of God fills you. Perfect love of God fills you. When perfect love of God fills you, you have the fear of the Lord, and every other fear is cast out. Because all this rule-keeping system comes out of the other fear, the tormenting fear. Look at somebody and say, fear of the Lord will bring the fruit of the Spirit in your life. Self-control is the fruit of the Spirit. The only form of control allowed in the kingdom is called self-control. When you try to control the other person, it becomes witchcraft. It might be parents doing to children. It might be wife doing to the husband, husband doing to the wife. It might be the government trying to do to people, or pastor trying to do to people. Any form of control is witchcraft. The only form of control allowed is self-control, where you open your heart and say, I am in relationship with you. If you value my relationship, I would really expect you to do this way. If you love me, keep my commandments. If you keep my commandments, then I will love you. No, that's not how it works. So love comes first. Keeping the commandments is the fruit of the love. So the fear of the Lord brings you to that place where David was. David loved the commandments of the Lord. He said, your commandments give me life. Because he was in the fear of the Lord. He understood the love of God. But Saul, the Pharisee, he was not in relationship with God. So those same commandments brought him death. Look at somebody and say, the problem is not with the law. Law can bring you life if you're in relationship. Commandments can bring you life if you're in relationship. So when you're in love, commandments bring life. That is true in every relationship. God, man, husband, wife. You come and meet me personally, I will tell the 10 commandments of Lovey, which is giving me life. because of the relationship that I have with her. The same thing would be seen as control and manipulation if I don't have a relationship with her. You're feeling controlled, you're feeling manipulated. It's because you're not in relationship. Why you're not in relationship? You have taken God out of the equation. Submitting to one another in the fear of the Lord. Bring the fear of the Lord back into your marriage. Bring the fear of the Lord back into your business. Bring the fear of the Lord to the center of your life and see what happens. And see what happens. Because the tsunami of God's glory is about to hit the earth. And whether it's going to hit the earth or not, it's going to hit this church. I mean, it's huge.